Baisaran Valley Horror. They call this hike Mini Switzerland. But on one afternoon, this paradise became a killing ground. Baisaran Valley, a hike high above Pahalgam town in Kashmir, a place where nature showed its kindest face. Endless rolling meadows framed by pine forests and snowy peaks. Locals lovingly called it Mini Switzerland. For years, trekkers, honeymooners, and families wandered these trails seeking peace. In Baisaran, it felt like the world's worries couldn't reach you. But Kashmir too holds an old tension, a beautiful land long caught between peace and conflict. While valleys like Baisaran remained safe for decades, the shadows were never far. Just here above the bustling town of Pahalgam, tucked into the mountains, Baisaran Valley stood untouched until April 2025. There are two ways to get here. One from Aru Valley, around 10-kilometer hike, other on a mule for those who cannot hike. Majorly, people chose to be on a mule to get to Baisaran Valley. That morning began like any other. Tourists riding ponies up forest trails, families snapping selfies under open skies, hikers exploring secret clearings. By afternoon, the meadows buzzed with laughter, the sound of hooves, and click of cameras. Then, around 3 p.m., from the edges of the dense pine forests, 5 men emerged, dressed in military uniforms, carrying M4 carbines and AK-47s. At first, some mistook them for soldiers, until the first gunshot rang out. In seconds, Baisaran turned from paradise into terror. The terrorists moved quickly, splitting the crowd, forcing tourists into groups, men to one side, women and children to another. They shouted demands, forcing the men to recite Islamic prayers. Some Secret Service professions in India trained their employees to recite religious prayers to handle such situations. Those who couldn't were shot. And those men who could recite the prayers were checked for circumcision and then shot. No hesitation and no mercy. In the chaos that followed, each corner of Baisaran became its own battlefield. Each family its own story of courage, terror, and heartbreak. While there are many personal stories to share from this terrorist attack, here are a few. Sushil Nathaniel and his family from Indore. Sushil Nathaniel had brought his wife Jennifer and their 2 children to experience Kashmir's beauty. When the attackers demanded the prayer, Sushil quietly said he was a Christian. Jennifer later recalled how he instinctively shielded their kids with his own body. The militants showed no mercy. They shot him in front of his family. Their son, Austin, was saved by a heroic local, a pony operator who dragged the boy into the bushes and covered him with leaves, whispering, "Don't move. Whatever you hear, don't move." Their daughter, Akanksha, trying to reach her father, was wounded, a bullet grazing her leg. But Sushil's tragedy was only one among many that day. Just a few hundred meters away, another young man stood facing death, wearing the uniform of the nation he had sworn to serve. The young Air Force officer from Arunachal Pradesh. On his honeymoon, an Air Force officer from Arunachal Pradesh found himself separated from his wife. When asked to prove his faith, he didn't plead. He stood tall. He was shot twice, collapsing onto the grass where he had just celebrated love and new beginnings with his wife. His wife was found later, clutching his wedding ring. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the meadows, another man trained for danger faced a cruel irony. An intelligence bureau officer stripped of his weapons, powerless to protect his family. Witnesses say he knelt, pulling his children close, whispering, "Stay low, don't move." He was executed moments later. His children survived, but their world was shattered. But not all heroes that day wore uniforms. Some wore only courage. In the heart of the horror, one man, a local pony operator, chose to fight back. Saeed Adil, a humble man of the mountains, saw what was happening. Without a second thought, he lunged at one of the gunmen, grabbing the barrel of the rifle. He shouted for nearby women and children to run. He was shot multiple times, but because of him, several lives were saved. Across the valley, others followed his example. Pony operators became silent saviors, risking their lives to hide terrified tourists. One family from Karnataka survived because a pony operator pushed them into a hidden trail, a pit covered in thorns. For hours, 40 people lay there, bleeding, crying, barely breathing, while gunmen prowled nearby. One young boy later said, "I thought maybe I had died, and this was heaven." Not everyone could escape. For some, survival meant lying among the wounded, pretending to be dead, praying the nightmare would pass. One woman from Mumbai lay face down in freezing mud for 3 hours, flies crawling on her face, too afraid to even blink. A group of trekkers hid in a rocky stream nearby, one man holding his friend's bleeding leg, whispering half-forgotten prayers. One survivor later said, "They laughed while they shot us." One of the terrorists said, "Smile, you are in paradise." When the shooting ended, Baisaran Valley fell silent. 26 people dead, over 20 wounded. The Indian government reacted immediately, shutting trekking routes, launching military operations, strengthening security across Kashmir. Diplomatic tensions rose sharply. Borders tightened. Grief swept across the nation. Today, if you walk through Baisaran Valley, you will still see beauty. The meadows dance in the wind, the mountains rise proud against the sky, but the land cries unseen scars. For every survivor, every family member, every silent witness, Baisaran is no longer just a paradise. It's a memory, a graveyard of dreams. By the time I'm making this story, all of the terrorists, all 5 of them, are at large and being pursued for last 4 days by Indian army men, very close to being caught. In Baisaran, paradise remains. But paradise now remembers. And behind every breathtaking landscape, sometimes there lies a story that must never be forgotten.